We see the sun in the daylight, the stars in night. Some of these stars are not really stars as our eyes see, they are planets. The moon, the largest body in the night sky. The asteroids and the comets, that some of them have even hit the Earth and caused damage and loss of lives. This is the solar system. How did the solar system form? There are many hypotheses on the origin of the solar system, but the convincing ones are two: religious and nebular hypotheses. The religious hypothesis comes from the Bible, the holy book to Jews and Christians. In the Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 to 19, the Bible gives an account of creation as follows. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed and morning came, marking the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters, to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made this space to separate the waters of the earth from the waters of the heavens. God called the space sky. And evening passed and morning came, marking the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." And that is what happened. God called the dry ground land, and the waters seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came." And that is what happened. The land produced vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and trees with seed-bearing fruit. Their seeds produced plants and trees of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. And evening passed and morning came, marking the third day. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day, and the smaller one to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And evening passed and morning came, marking the fourth day. The story of creation goes on in the Bible, but this can do. The nebular hypothesis claimed that the solar system formed around 4.6 billion years ago from a cloud of gas and dust called the solar nebula. This happened when the solar nebula collapsed under its own gravity, forming a rotating disk of gas and dust. The central part of the disk became denser and hotter, eventually forming the protosun, while the surrounding gas and dust particles began to stick together, forming planetesimals. Over time, these planetesimals grew through accretion, colliding and merging with each other to form larger bodies, including the planets, moons, asteroids, and comets that make up the solar system. The inner planets, including Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, formed from small, rocky planetesimals, while the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, formed from larger, gas-rich planetesimals that were able to capture more gas from the solar nebula. This process of planet formation took tens of millions of years, and left behind a disk of leftover material known as the Kuiper Belt, where many comets and other small bodies continue to orbit the Sun today. The solar nebula was a vast cloud of gas, mostly helium and hydrogen gases and dust that formed from the remains of earlier stars that had exploded in supernovae. Over time, this cloud became enriched with heavier elements, such as carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, which are essential building blocks for life. As the solar nebula began to collapse under its own gravity, it formed a rotating disk of gas and dust known as a protoplanetary disk. This disk had a central region that was denser and hotter than the outer regions, due to the protosun's gravitational pull. In the inner region of the disk, temperatures were too high for volatile substances like water and methane to condense into solid particles. This meant that only metal and rock could solidify and form planetesimals. These planetesimals continued to grow by attracting and colliding with one another, forming larger and larger objects until they became the terrestrial planets we know today: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. In the outer region of the disk, where temperatures were much lower, volatile materials could solidify and form ice. This made it possible for planetesimals to grow much larger by accumulating ice as well as rock and metal. These larger planetesimals could then capture even more gas from the solar nebula, eventually becoming the giant planets Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The Kuiper Belt, which lies beyond Neptune's orbit, is a region of the solar system that contains many small icy bodies, including Pluto and its moons. These objects are thought to be leftover planetesimals that were not incorporated into the giant planets during their formation. The formation of the solar system was a long and complex process that involved many factors, including the composition and temperature of the solar nebula, the gravitational forces between objects, and the accretion of gas and dust. While there is still much to learn about the details of this process, the nebular hypothesis remains the most widely accepted theory for how our solar system came to be.